Hello, fellow researchers. I'm absolutely delighted to share with you that AnswerThis has had a massive update recently, making this revolutionary tool even greater and more powerful than ever before. Today, we're going to show you exactly what has happened and why your research is about to be taken to the next level. For those of you who have not used AnswerThis yet before, AnswerThis is a research tool that creates literature reviews based on 250 million research papers. It provides you with exact line-by-line citations to the exact research papers that you are looking for and is more accurate than any tool currently out there. I am absolutely excited to share with you the new features that have recently come out as well as the existing ones. Now, from the homepage, AnswerThis has a really easy sign-up process where you simply click here where you can choose to sign up via Google or email. I'm simply going to go with Google as this is the easiest for me, but feel free to do either option. Of course, unlike other tools, we get directly into the action, no overdone and boring sign-up processes. We just get straight into it. So when you open up AnswerThis, you will see the homepage right here. There is an option to ask a question or thesis statement right away in order to get a literature review. You also see that there is a library tab, search for papers tab, editor tab, projects tab. These are all pro features and we will be diving into these later on in the video, but for now let's jump right into the main feature of AnswerThis, which is the literature review. From the homepage, you can see that there's a prompt helper. We can use this to help us choose our questions that we need to ask using AI to make our question more adjusted to how AnswerThis needs questions to be phrased. AnswerThis is not like GPT where longer, more detailed, in-depth prompts are going to reveal better answers. Instead, it's quite the opposite. The simpler your prompt is and the more straightforward to the point it is, the better, more comprehensive and accurate your answer is going to be. Helper is simply a tool that helps you do that. Okay, so I'm going to just put in a very typical question, maybe one of these ones that are already made for us down here, just to show you how the tool works. Let's go for how does climate change impact biodiversity? Now, this topic I'm not so familiar with as my researcher is more around economics, but an interesting topic nevertheless. And now for the exciting bit, we're going to see some of the new features that have recently been released on AnswerThis for you. First of all, we have the minimum amount of citations that we can simply slide left or right here. I like to keep this at roughly around 10, but in my experience, it doesn't really matter how many minimum citations you set because AnswerThis typically just goes through and picks out all the relevant papers for you anyway. So whether you like it or not, AnswerThis is going to give you a good answer. Now, here comes the first new feature and honestly, probably my favorite new feature that has come out, and that is turbo mode. But before, AnswerThis used a proprietary system to bring you the most accurate answers. However, recently turbo mode has come out where we still get the same quality and depth in the answer that we need for our exact question. We get it much quicker, which is really handy when you need to quickly get that research. In fact, we're going to keep this on and I'm going to show you how it works. We also can choose what database we want our sources from. We can use research papers, and within research papers, we have the option to be a little bit more specific. For example, do we want our sources to come out of PubMed or do we want them to come from one of these other sources? We also have web search. This is great when you are looking for general things, or in fact, it's actually amazing if you want to look for specific information on conferences that are for your related research. We also have the ability to get our answer from patents as well as from our own library, which I will go into a little bit more in this video. And we also have the option to just use AI as well. We can also select where we want the start date of publications to come from, as well as the end date. This is really good if you're looking for papers that are more based on recency rather than relevancy, which is not very typical, but of course, as a researcher, there may be times where you need to see the most recent papers that have come out. This is the best way I've seen that you can do this. Not even Google Scholar or any other tools can give you the depth that AnswerThis can, whilst also being much easier to use. AnswerThis also recently come out with this amazing feature called the double full citation. Already before AnswerThis released this feature, but it was 99.9% accurate with its citation. But now it is somehow even more accurate than that, which is beyond my belief. But hey, I'm not going to complain. We also have this option to simply produce a literature review as an output, or we can produce a full paper. However, this is a pro feature only. Okay, let's see how turbo mode does. And wow, just like that, AnswerThis has already produced a literature review 10 times quicker than before when I used it. So that is absolutely well done. Second of all, have you noticed the UI change? If you've used AnswerThis before, you would have had to scroll all the way to the bottom in order to see the sources. But now you have the answer on the left and sources on the right. This is super convenient. So first of all, let's have a look at the quality of the answer. As you can see, we clearly got to see what the impact of climate change on biodiversity is. You get to see what that means. What does it mean to have an impact on biodiversity, and how climate change contributes to that. We have the factors down here. For example, one significant consequence is the alteration of species habitats and distribution. And we also have the sources there. Then it goes into some of the other reasons. Going on, this looks absolutely amazingly produced. We have key figures, we have fact, 7 related sources, all from 2000 and beyond. So this is recent research, making it very relevant to today's time. We can also see on the right side that we get the name of the research papers and the sources that were used, as well as the authors behind those papers, where those papers came from, and what organizations these authors are of. We also get a quick breakdown of what their papers were about, which is sort of like a quick abstract or summary of their paper. And we also get to see if a PDF is available or not. This will become super important as we dive into the features that AnswerThis allows us to do to manipulate these papers to get even more relevant information. We also get the DOI, which is very handy to find where the research papers come from. We get to see how many times the papers was cited, so this is great to see how influential the source is. And we also get a quick citation here, so we can copy and paste it into our literature review if we're making it, or if we are editing it by ourselves. We can also edit the style of the citation from Chicago to Harvard, or other citation styles that we need. This is really handy because I can just scroll left and right and see which key paper came from where and how relevant the papers were whilst I'm reading through the literature review. This is absolutely revolutionary, as before I actually used to have answers in 2 separate tabs, with the literature review being on the left and the sources being on the right. But now it's all conveniently in one window where I can simply scroll left, simply scroll right, and it makes me so much more productive when it comes to doing my research. And I hope it does the same for you. Now, with these sources, we can do many different things. One of the great things that we can do is extract even more data from the sources we already have. We can do things like find research gaps, which is particularly useful for me as I'm conducting my current research. In fact, AnswerThis allowed me to find what my thesis statement is within just 2 hours, as I did a few literature reviews and used the extract data feature in order to find research gaps. There's also these other data extractions that we can do, which I highly recommend you play around with. I want to simply go with research gaps because this is what I found most useful in the past. Sure, as I continue to do my research, I'm going to find these other tools just as useful as well. We can also freely select the sources that we find particularly useful, and we can export these sources into a CSV. Really useful when we're keeping track of our research papers and sources that we're using whilst we're conducting our research. We can also export this into a BibTeX as well. AnswerThis also has these handy features where we can sort sources by date, by author, or whatever we need in order to make it more convenient for us as we go about looking at sources with our literature review. In fact, this becomes super useful as we use AnswerThis for the more in-depth literature reviews, as well as the research papers that AnswerThis can produce, as these types of outputs typically have 20+ sources, which are all super relevant to our research. it's almost as if we're suffering from success as we have to organize these papers in a better way, which AnswerThis allows us to do. Going even more in depth into these papers, we can also select the papers that have PDF available, and we can chat with these papers. This is an absolutely amazing tool that I'm going to dive into in just a second. We also have the ability to save these papers into a library, which is super useful when we're going about a research project. Of course, we need to keep track of what papers are relevant to us. We need to go back to these papers, and if we have them saved to the library, we can chat with the papers anytime, and we can do so many other things, which I'm going to show you in a second. Back into the literature review, which is conveniently on the left here. We can also save this answer as a PDF, which I do very frequently. As you can see, we have the exact same filters as we did before, and we can ask a new follow-up question to get even more in-depth into the research that we need to get into. And of course, we can just simply copy the text of the answer as well. And finally, just some of the other fun things that can do this answer. As you can see in the top right, there are these funny little diagonal arrows. If we click on this, we can actually expand either the sources or the literature review section. Also in the middle, we have the ability to drag either the literature review or the sources in order to make one bigger. And also really quickly, I just want to show you what a literature review on research paper version of this exact same question looks like, so that you can believe me when I say that you get a lot of relevant sources and an absolutely phenomenal answer when you pick these options. So just quickly have a look at this. Oh my goodness, look at how in depth this answer is. Look at all these sources, and the research paper version is going to have an even greater amount of sources. This is why I'm proud to be a pro user. Look at the size of this research paper. Oh my goodness. I want to go back into the literature review section again, but before I do that, let me quickly show you this absolutely amazing feature of AnswerThis, which is its library. In the library, we can do so many things. This is where we're saving our papers from our literature reviews. We're picking all the relevant papers and we're saving them here. We also have the ability to upload the papers that we already have. This allows us to use AnswerThis in order to utilize the papers that we had already collected before you discovered this revolutionary tool. We also have the option to import to library. Here we can use papers from Scite.ai or other tools that have our lists of papers or research that we've done before. And we can also use those libraries and import them into the AnswerThis library, so that we have all the papers that we need in one handy place. Of course, we also have the option to delete papers as well, as you can see in the top here. Now, as we're going through the library, as you can see, it kind of looks like the source panel from our literature review section, except it's a little bit more convenient. We can see if the PDF is available. Typically, when we upload papers from our library, PDF is already going to be formatted in that style, and so we can simply just select any of these PDFs that we need and we can chat with them. We can chat with the paper and get the relevant sources, as I was saying earlier. We can also extract data like we were able to earlier to find those research gaps, for me in particular, as well as so many other things. We also have the ability to export these into CSV. So fun fact, if you use data extract to get research gaps, for example, we are able to have that in the table view. If we scroll to the bottom, we can go to the next page to see more research papers or sources that we've saved. We also have the ability to sort these papers by date, by authors, and all that good stuff that we did before, as well as changing the citation styles of each source that has been uploaded. Going back to the literature review tool, we also have the option on the bottom right here that is hiding away from us, which is unbelievably useful, called Upload PDFs. This allows us to directly upload the source that we find relevant to the question that we are asking, and to use AnswerThis' proprietary system in order to answer our related question with the PDF in mind. Also, in the filters option, if we use the library that we've seen from earlier, we can ask a question and AnswerThis will use the library to find all the relevant papers from our library that are related to that specific question. Now, I'm sure some of you are like, Ryan, what if I don't want an entire literature review in order to find some relevant papers that I'm looking for? That is absolutely no worries. AnswerThis has you covered here as well. in the Find Papers tab, we can simply ask one of the questions that we asked in the literature review section from earlier in order to find the papers that we need. AnswerThis will use its proprietary technology in the same way that it used to find relevant papers for a literature review to find papers for you directly. This is so much more accurate and relevant than what Google Scholar provides, but you don't need all of those complicated filters and exact terminologies in the exact way to ask your question as you do in Google Scholar. Instead, you can simply just ask the question face on. You don't need to spend 5 years learning to properly filter and ask your question in order to find relevant papers. You can simply just ask here and see all the papers that you need for your research. Another great section that has been recently added with so many features is the editor section. Before, the editor section, in my opinion, kind of looked a bit clunky, but now we have so many new ways to edit our literature reviews that AnswerThis gives us. So the first 3 new features, or first 4, let's say, are these little features to simply bold, italicize, underline, or code our text. This is very useful as now we don't need to jump into Microsoft Word and jump back in order to edit our research papers, but instead, it's all just here for us. We also have formatting options like alignment, where we can center maybe our title text, or we can do whatever we need to do with the literature review text. On the left here, we also have a handy option where we can simply save our progress anytime during the literature review editing session. We can also save it to PDF, of course, and on the right here, we also have AI features. This is absolutely amazing as we can, 1, humanize our text. So maybe your first language isn't English and it's a little hard to get all the terminology and all the writing in a clear, concise way. Well, humanized text can be a great first step in order to get you there, as it makes your research come across as very personalized and from the heart. From there, there's also an amazing option to rephrase some bits of the literature review. So maybe you don't like the way that one of these paragraphs are worded. You can use the AI feature of rephrase and play around with that until you get the paragraph in the exact words that you want it. You can also have AnswerThis continue the writing of your literature review. So our proprietary technology will actually use the context of your literature review and continue writing based on what is relevant in our context that we have here. AnswerThis also allows you to generate an outline of your research. This can be phenomenal if you're confused on how you want to structure your research paper, or you just want to get that structuring out of the way. You can simply highlight the text and you can generate an outline in order to have your literature review sectioned off in a very great way. We also have the ability to generate an abstract based on our literature review. This is really handy for me as I personally struggle with writing abstracts and summarizing what my literature review is about. So AnswerThis is a great first step in order to get you an abstract which very clearly breaks down what your research is about and really conveys what you're trying to study, what your thesis statement is, and the key findings of your research. Finally, you can also generate research questions based on your literature review. This is actually particularly handy if you're wondering where you should go with your research in order to get even more information. And finally, if we just scroll to the bottom here, we can actually see the literature review that we have made before in AnswerThis. So if we want to go and edit a literature review that was already made before, this is where you can find it. And finally, a new addition to projects is that if you go and click on one of these projects, you can actually see all the queries that you made on this project before. So you can just simply go into the literature review that you had done with this project if you want to go and see what information was in that literature review. And finally, before you go off and conduct the amazing research I'm sure you're about to conduct with this revolutionary tool, let me just give you a few tips. So I haven't mentioned this yet, but if you look at the top left, anytime you're in AnswerThis, you'll see these funky lines. If you click this, you can actually see the projects right on this little bar here. It's very easy to navigate through the different projects that you may have. You can also go into recent queries for a specific project so that you can just quickly go into a literature review that you've done before. Similarly for chat with papers, you can see the papers that you've chatted with in the past. If you want to go and revisit what you had learned from that paper, this is a really easy way to do that. And here is a chat with paper section. It is absolutely amazing. As you can see, if you simply select one of the PDFs from your library, or if you select one of the PDFs from a literature review that you find useful, then you can quickly just put that into a chat with paper. It has this very easy format where you get to see the paper on the left and you get to chat with it on the right. As you can see, you can just scroll through the paper here, and the first section that I find really relevant in chat with papers is this ability to explain text. This paper is talking about the stem cell separation technologies, and when it comes to stem cell research, I'm not sure if you know this, but the terminology can be really hard at times. So if we simply select the text like this, we can ask the chat with paper to explain what it means, and it will do so in a very good manner. But the chat feature will also give me even more information so that I get a broader understanding of what this paper is talking about. We can also just ask it a question in order to find the relevant information that we need. So maybe we read this paper long ago and it's one of the papers that we uploaded. We can just go in and say, what is field flow fractionation? And it will simply find that part of the research paper that talked about that and will explain what it means, how it was used in the paper, and we can ask even more questions to get more in depth into what this paper was talking about. I highly recommend that you play around with this with your own research papers. Sometimes I find that this chat feature will provide me with more information than the papers do themselves, which is absolutely crazy. So I highly recommend you use this tool in order to expand your research. And my final fun fact and quick tip for AnswerThis is if you go to the homepage here, there's actually an ability to extract data from a PDF that you already have. This can save you hours of time of scrolling through and sifting through the information of research papers in order to quickly find which ones are relevant, what's the data and what you're looking for, and to be able to conduct your research much quicker. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you learned a thing or two about what you can do with AnswerThis, how to use AnswerThis. And of course, if you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to leave it in the comment section below and I'll get to you right away. Or you can email us at ayush@answerthis.io and we will always respond to whatever your queries are about. Good luck researching.